Good evening, race fans, and welcome back after a bit of a long hiatus to the Ottercar AI Racing Series. Today, here for something a little bit different from what we've traditionally seen here with the Ottercar folks. Today, we are doing our first ever league special event here on the iRacing.com platform. Of course, with today being the MusteLe Mans 2.4 at Daytona. Of course, parodying the American Le Mans series before it got changed up to being what we know today. For a total of 33 drivers here in today's event here at the Daytona International Speedway. Of course, here at the road course. And just like that, the pace car is off. We're going to get this thing rolling here for the first time in Ottercar AI racing history for the MusteLe Mans 2.4. And so far, so good as all these drivers run down into turn number one. No real issues, at least so far, which is always nice to see. But we've still got a very long 2.4 hours to get through here in today's event. So far, so good in the LMP2 field. And we're not seeing any reports of any issues in the GTE field either. So far, so good for these drivers in the early going to this one. Lap one can sometimes be the scariest lap when we have this many cars out on the raceway, but right now everyone seems to be playing relatively nice with each other, but we'll see how long any of these friendships last, because there's going to be a whole lot of racing here in today's event. Traffic cars, but we might have an incident. It looks like Piper and Rally are both around on the back straightaway here. Rally's able to get it. No, that's Piper. Piper's able to get going. Rally's having to take the toe down to pick lane. Not quite sure what all that was about. We're going to take a moment back here to see what just that was for our first incident here of the evening. Coming down the oval section of the raceway, heading down towards the chicane. Oh, they just come together. That was just a straight up pit maneuver. I don't know about the ethics or morals of that one, but that might just be two different drivers straight up eliminated from today's event. I mean, it does look like Rally might be able to keep going in the BMW, possibly. I don't know, maybe. Get another look back at it here, though. That Waffle House Ferrari of Piper really just kind of drifts up without any sort of concern for other cars on the track, and go ahead and pit maneuver both of them. So that's going to be our first incident of the evening. Green flag is still out. Car. Miette just behind as well in that white and green Mountain Dew entry. This is the battle for 7th on back to about 9th here in the LMP2 field. Heading out onto the back straightaway again through the NASCAR portion of the track. This is where things are going to get spicy between these cars, and already George Foreman starting to lose a little bit of ground here as Miette tries to make the move happen on the high line, which is not something we traditionally see, but still side by side, heading down the back straightaway, heading towards the bus stop here. Who is going to play the game of chicken? Who's going to outbreak the other? Looks like Miette is going to back off and position back to George Foreman here. Single filing out through the bus stop, and now we are rolling once again back towards the start-finish line and back towards the ever so crazy turn number one. We have another car around, though. It looks like Med is around here. This is heading back into the NASCAR section, and Med was our race leader in the GT3 field, so I'm not quite sure what happened there, if there was any assistance from Sark and Piastri just behind, or if it was just a little bit of a skill issue. And oh, yep, looks like a little bit of skill issue, and you can see there, it's a little bit hard to see. Let's go back, we'll get another view of that right quick. Heading down through the corner, and if we break out the slow-mo camera here, you see the rear wheels start to lock up, the ABS not really doing anything to help, but then comes the impact with the tire barrier, and immediately that tire stops moving. So that's actually a broken, probably a broken tire rod there, but that's a car that's going to need some extensive repairs here in the remainder in today's event. Of course, crossing the start-finish line, heading down to turn number one. We have a bit of an incident again ahead. That's a slow car up there. I think that's Garrett Hess that just got doored into the wall by That looked like Ash and Mahdi, potentially. And yep, Ash way off the pace here. We also got news that Frosty C has had to take the toe down to pit lane. Frosty was our race leader here in that Porsche, so let's take a look back, see what happened to him, because he had a pretty comfortable lead over the rest of the field. And it's going to look like a bit of the same. Isn't a hard impact in the tire barrier for that 503. That might just be the end of the line for him, but we're going to keep it going. We're going to see what happens as we have a battle going on here. Heading down to turn number 1, Miet, a toddler driver name in August. All duking it out at the tail end of the prototype field here. At this point, we've gotten far enough that pretty much the entire prototype field is really thoroughly mixed together into the GTE racing right now, so traffic management is going to be the name of the game here. Maybe try and forget about passing the other cars in your class, and right now just make sure you don't kill any of the cars in the slower category here. You can see thirds up there in the number 12 machine, that Speed Racer entry. She's going to be able to get around at least the first couple of cars there. That's the GoDaddy BMW that she's able to get around, but of course even more traffic up ahead. That's going to be very difficult to get through if they're going to run 2x2. Miet goes up to the high line. It's going to get around thirds. Thinking about going to the high line. There she goes, gets up to the high line as well, and they're going to all start passing this GTE traffic. But once again, we are heading straight for the bus stop here. Not a place you want to be battling out with other classes. But for the most part, it's going to look like everyone's going to get through it a-okay. Nothing too catastrophic going on there. All the GTE cars trying to keep it down the bottom, stay out of the way of these faster prototype cars, and try and not get run over and launched into the air. So a couple of drivers taken out of today's event, and we have another driver around as well. That's George Foreman. George Foreman around with no front end left on that Javelin Texaco entry. And lo and behold, would you believe it, it's in the same corner that we have seen everyone else making mistakes in. I'm starting to get a little bit of a feeling here that we might just have like an oil slick or something down in that corner, because this is getting a little bit silly. And that was a hard one. Oh boy. Let's take another ride back here. Let's ride on board here with George Foreman as they absolutely bungled the car, as some of these drivers here in the Ottercar series might describe it as. Pro tip, if you want to win the race, don't do that. Some really good battles going on here in the LMP2 class, though. Here's side by side, Splingus duking it out with Valnar, who looks like he might have a little bit of front end damage on that Jägermeister entry, but Valnar all the way back to driver name back in 10th, all in a very tight battle here through the infield section of the course. Valnar, August, Miet, thirds, driver name, all here in this battle. Starting to spread out just a little bit. Some of these drivers at the tail end of this battle didn't really get the best exit coming out of that corner, but now heading back through this next section, and Valnar is off the racetrack, overdrove the corner a little bit. Fortunately, going to miss the tire barrier at least, but he's going to slow down a little bit. Gets back up on the racetrack back in 10th here, but he's going to have to make a little bit of room, a little bit of speed back up to get back up into this battle. Looking down here side by side for August and thirds. Thirds up there running the high line. Oh, nope, going to go for the crossover. Going to move it down to the bottom here in that Speed Racer entry. Side by side, heading down towards the bus stop. Will thirds win the game of chicken, or is it going to be August? It's going to be thirds with the advantage going down through the bus stop. August going to drop it back just a little bit. Doesn't want to potentially run another driver off the course, and that's going to cost them a little bit of ground, because now driver name and Miet are battling it out here with them as well. Driver name really trying to make the high line of the track work to get around that Mountain Dew entry. Side by side, nearly contact. They're going to squeeze up into the wall, and that G drive entry of driver name is going to scrape the wall there just a little bit. Doesn't look like anything major in terms of damage, but in these prototype cars, they are very sensitive to damage because they're so dependent on their aerodynamics, especially on these longer straightaways. So nothing too bad now for driver name, but that could end up getting worse here later on in today's event. Yet still hot on Valnar's tail though. Riding on board through this slower section right on the tail of the Jägermeister entry. Trying to work out a way around it, and I imagine we're going to see her go for a big move, probably down into the bus stop. At least that's what I would probably do in this situation, just try and follow behind her. You know what? If Valnar is going to get a bad exit off the corner, you might as well pull side by side right here, right now. Don't worry about drafting. Just go for what you're able to do here. And we are going to be side by side heading towards the bus stop. Nearly making contact there between the two drivers, and Valnar's going to go ahead and lift off the gas, forfeit the position to Miette, and live to drive another day. Drivers who may not be living to drive another day. How about that is Pav there, who just went off the speedway a bit. Take a look back, see if we can't see what happened to Pav, because it's not often that we see drivers go off here in turn number 1, but just way overdriving the corner there, ended up in the grass. Fortunately, no damage from it. And it doesn't even look like that's actually really going to cost Pav any positions here. It doesn't look like he lost any spots from it. As Pav once again is off the speedway 2 corners later, giving us exactly enough time to view the replay before making another mistake here. Now there are some cars coming up from behind, and these cars are battling for position with Pav. So if Pav makes another mistake, then he is going to start losing some spots here. As we see side by side, Garrett Hess and Dirt still duking it out. Godfrey Dadius in the BMW just behind. Sarkin Piastri here as well. All 5 of these cars are battling for position on the raceway right now, as they head through the NASCAR section once again, making their way back towards the bus stop here. Still a long way left to go here in today's event, but these drivers really are pushing each other with their all right now. Both of them going around that lap car of Cozy, who is currently a little bit off the pace here. Got some damage in the early goings of this one. Now Thorium starting to close in here on Riley Ember. No, Thorium's going to make the call to come down pit lane. Going to be one of the first drivers in the LMP2 field to make their stop. And I think this actually is a scheduled pit stop for the driver of the number 13 machine. So first driver of the evening to make a scheduled pit stop here tonight. Yeah, looks like another slow car here. So we have a couple of drivers having issues here. Not quite sure what's going on, but MF Beatus is stopped on the raceway. I think that our race leader in LMP2 has run out of fuel. Tried to stretch it for another lap and wasn't able to do it. Sure enough, Miette here coming down to the apron. Looks like she is going to be coming down to take fuel. Really looks like pretty much all of the LMP2 field is sputtering here, trying to get back to pit lane, and it seems like almost none of the LMP2 drivers have fuel except Thorium, who pitted the lap before. Miette's going to make it down to pit lane, so Miette will be able to get fuel. Driver name makes it down as well. So does August. Thorium, of course, is good to go. Thorium took fuel a lap before, so Thorium is fine. Thirds might not be able to make it down to pit lane. Toddler not going to be able to make it down. Riley Ember not going to be able to make it down. Neither is Valnar. Neither is Splingus. Almost the entire LMP2 field has run out of gas here. How are things going? It is the same issue in the GTE field. Interesting. Well, we're going to throw a caution here, because evidently this was not quite scheduled here, as most of the field has run out of fuel in both classes here, but one way or another, it's Ottercar, it's the Daytona 2.4, And we are just about ready to be going green flag racing once again. Coming out of NASCAR turn number 4. The safety car is going to make the dip down into the cover of pit lane. It does not want to be out on the track for whatever chaos is about to ensue in these next couple moments. Pace car is off. Let's try this thing once again here at Daytona. And Miette gets a really solid jump going down into turn number 1, side by side, just behind for Thorium and August. Thorium going to make the move work, though. Still side by side, just behind from August and driver name here. The only 4 LMP2s still on the lead lap, and they are all duking it out with each other here on this initial restart. Of course, an hour and 17 minutes still left to go, so closing in on the halfway point of tonight's event. And these drivers know we're starting to get closer into the period where you really need to throw everything you've got and see what sticks before you run out of time to actually make something happen here. Miette still leading the way here through the infield section, and Thorium's going to make a big send to the outside. Manages to get around Miette, nearly spins it in the process, but Thorium's going to be our new race leader here in LMP2. Miette following just behind. She's going to pull up high, try and make the move back here, going down into the bus stop most likely. And pulls it way up high. I don't think she's going to be close enough to try and send it in there, especially because August is now following through to try and see if he can't make a move here on this battle. Side by side for P2 into the bus stop, and it's going to be August that has the advantage, but the more these two battle it out, the more they're going to lose ground on Thorium. Sure enough, though, August makes the move stick. Now August looking to try and make the move, potentially take the race lead here, heading down through NASCAR 3 and 4. Goes down to the bottom, tries to pull up alongside, and it looks like August is going to be able to side by side across the start-finish line for our first lap back under the green. And it's going to be August that has the advantage coming across the line, going down into turn number 1. Big lockup, though. Thorium again sending it in. Oh, we have a car around. What was that? That looked like a toddler. A toddler just got sent to the Shadow Realm, and he brings it back up on the track like nothing happened. What was that? It is all chaos throughout the field here as we're trying to find a replay of what exactly just happened. We'll take a jump back here. This was down with A Toddler battling out side by side with Miette. Mind you, A Toddler is a lap car here. Coming up on driver name, going down across the front straightaway, across the start-finish line, comes up, and oh, rear ends driver name, gets sent absolutely flying. Slows it down and then comes back up onto the racetrack like nothing happened. What an absolute madman. I don't know how driver name got the shorter end of the stick there, but they did. They are lacking a rear spoiler now, way down on power. Looks like both them and A Toddler are both having to make the long and slow crawl back to pit lane. Both of their cars have pretty terminal damage, you can see. Driver name has lost the rear end of their car. Driver name, mind you, is on the lead lap. A Toddler is not. A lap car just took out one of the 4 remaining lead lap cars in LMP2. And that's going to bring this battle down to just between Thorium, August, and Miette for the race win in LMP2. Unless some of these drivers can manage to unlap themselves. Regardless, a spin is a spin. Currently looking at the battle for the lead here in the GTE class, though. Godfrey, Dadius, Mint, and Pav all duking it out. Even after all this time has passed, they are still going for it. With just over an hour left to go here at Daytona. Side by side, are we going to go 3 wide heading down to turn number 1? No, not quite. They thought about it, though. They really considered going 3 wide here at Daytona, but nope, not quite going to happen. As it looks like Mint is going to make the move down to turn number 1. Is he able to make it stick? Not quite. Godfrey Dadius back up to the lead. Pav's going to hold it up alongside Mint here as well, almost making the move for the lead himself. But sure enough, Pav not able to clear Mint, going to fall back into third. Godfrey Dadius maintains the race lead in GTE, at least for the time being. Of course, the clock strikes 1 hour left to go here at Daytona. Here soon enough, we probably are going to start to see the sun rise once again and get into the morning segments of today's event. Honestly, I don't know if the morning coming is going to mean that drivers will start to chill out a little bit, or if things are going to get even more chaotic in the closing chapters of today's special event. Checking on things up in the front, Thorium is still our race leader in LMP2 right now in that Tag Heuer entry. About a 5-second lead over Miette as... Uh-oh. Godfrey Dadius is off the speedway. That's our race leader in GTE off the track. Gets it back up on the speedway, still in the lead, but losing ground rapidly. Is side by side just behind is Mint and Pav. Both of them were hoping to capitalize on the mistake of Godfrey Dadius, and it looks like neither of them are quite going to be able to. However, Godfrey is still trying to get back up to speed after that slip down into the grass, so who knows if they're going to be able to defend down here into turn number 1. Side by side for Mint and Pav here into turn number 1 once again. Godfrey Dadius still holds on to the race lead despite that little shortcut through the grass. But Pav gets around Mint here, and now we have a LMP2 getting involved in the mix. That is August here inserting themselves in this battle. Just behind there is the Texaco Haviline entry as well, as Sarkin is spun around in the corner. Nobody's made contact with him, though. That's most of the battle right there. Looks like just another self-spin for the driver of the 203. Let's take a look back. Sure enough, it looks like that's exactly what it is for Sarkin Chiastri. And yep, that is exactly what it is. Just a little bit of a self-spin as a treat. And it looks like Sarkin is around again, still trying to get back onto the actual speedway. We might have had an incident with August as well. Sure enough, August had an incident as well while we were looking at that replay. August here trying to get around the leader in the GTE field of Pav. Pulls it down alongside, and oh lordy. Well, we now have 2 LMP2 drivers left. It's just down to Thorium and Miette now. 44 minutes to go here, so the clock is ticking for these drivers to get themselves situated and try and make any passes before the caution flag flies. Currently looking at Mint right on the back of Deegan here, hunting through the infield section, trying to make something work here. As Godfrey Dadius is pulled away to a 4-second lead over the GT field right now. That's going to be Mint and Deegan duking it out with 44 minutes to go. As soon as the clock hits 43, we are going to be throwing a competition caution here for everyone to take fuel, just to avoid a second situation of every single car running out of gas and kind of messing up the flow of the race by a substantial margin. Side by side, though, Deegan is going to pull up alongside Pav here. Will they be able to make the move? No, they will not. Caution flag is out here with 43 minutes to go. Alrighty, green flag back up in the air here for the 3rd time here in the Daytona 2.4, the MusteLe Mans Daytona 2.4. Miette and Thorium lead the field to the green. Miette holds the advantage here down into turn number 1. Question will be, will she be able to hang on to it here for the next half an hour? Because we have seen how fast Thorium can be. Thorium seems to generally be pretty aggressive when it comes to some of these moves, so I'd imagine it's going to be a very big chore holding off that Tag Heuer entry. Third's cutting down to the bottom, tried to make the move going through the kink, not able to make it happen though, of course. Thirds is a lap down, but at least at the very least trying to unlap herself. Because like I said, there's still the very big what if on Miette and Thorium somehow finding a way to wreck out of tonight's event. And sure enough, now Thirds is going to make the move on Thorium and take the spot away. Miette up to a 2.3 second lead here with half an hour left to go here at Daytona. Things already getting pretty spread out here. I think we did have a couple of takers on tires maybe, and that might be part of the speed disparity here, is just a couple of people did take tires after all. A little bit further back, Mint battling it out side by side here with Godfrey Dadius, and just behind the Castrol car, that is Ashley, who is currently being scored one lap down right now. Officially half an hour left to go here in the Daytona 2.4 for the MusteLe Mans special event. And as usual, these three cars are keeping things spicy here. Side by side across the start-finish line. Deegan further up ahead has a bit of an advantage here over the rest of the field. Actually getting a pretty decent lead built up over these two drivers, as they still duke it out with that lap car is Ashley as well. Of course, Ashley is not battling for position with Mint or Godfrey Dadius, but still very much putting herself in this battle. Mint falling back position is now Ash is up in fourth in that Rockstar BMW. I don't remember Ash being on the lead lap, but sure enough, Ash is here in this battle for the front of the field in GTE, with the exception of Pav, who is just inexplicably a full minute ahead of everyone else because of that wave around that I'm still not entirely sure why he was actually given. The battle is closing up for the race lead in class though. Miette now only half a second between herself and Thorium. 20 minutes left to go, and Thorium is closing that gap down for the battle for the overall lead here in the MusteLe Mans Daytona 2.4. Now 0.2 of a second, they're nose to tail, side by side, heading down into turn number 2. Miette moves to block. Thorium has to slow down to avoid rear-ending her. That's going to cost a bit of time here, but still 20 minutes left to go. Thorium is not out of this battle quite yet. Bring it back up close again here through the second part of the infield and back up onto the NASCAR section. Thorium's now close enough to very thoroughly have the slipstream here, so I think Miette's going to have to play really hard on the defensive if she wants to hang on to the race lead here. 19 minutes left to go here, though. Not a lot of time left here at Daytona. And it is a crazy close battle, even all the way at the end of this race, between our two leaders here in LMP2. Thorium still just not quite able to get close enough through the bus stop. Now back to 0.6 of a second again. Really having a little bit of difficulty through these tighter sections of the racetrack where these really heavy braking zones are. It might take a little bit of a stroke of luck here to really make that move happen, unless we see another crazy dive bomb through turn 1 again like we've seen in the past out of Thorium. Not quite sure how it'll play out here. It's still Thorium right on the bumper of the overall race leader here in the MusteLe Mans Daytona 2.4. Both of these drivers have put on really solid drives here this evening. And as the sun begins to rise over the speedway, I think it's all going to come down to these two drivers here. Now down to 17 minutes left to go. Side by side coming back onto the Daytona Oval though. Thorium just barely has a nose ahead. It's going to be a drag race down into the bus stop between these two drivers. Side by side, I don't think either driver is going to be lifting here. This is for all the marbles. But Miette lifts first. Thorium outbreaks her. Thorium is the new race leader. Here, with 17 minutes left to go, will Miette be able to fire back? 0.3 of a second dividing these two drivers. It is still very close between the two of them. It is not over yet in this battle. Miette down to 0.1 of a second, pulls up high, going to be side by side once again, heading down into turn number 1. She's going to back down, follow in line here with Thorium. And Thorium's going to get a much better corner through there. 16 minutes left to go here at Daytona. And once again, Miette substantially faster than Thorium through the final sector. Now down to about half a second between the two of them. Miette got a really good run down into turn number 1. This battle is still absolutely going on between the two of them, especially since Miette still setting faster sectors, and Thorium's going to spin down into turn number 2. Thorium overdrives the corner, and that might be the end of this battle for the race lead. Thorium gets it going back as quick as they can, but that's now a 9-second gap between themselves and Miette here. 9 seconds, the difference to have to make up in these next 14 minutes. 3 minutes left to go here at Daytona, and Thirds is still down on pit lane. It's been on pit lane for a minute and a half now. That's starting to make me worry that Thirds might have actually wrecked and gotten some damage, because that is an unusual amount of time to be down on pit lane in these cars. The average pit stop only about 30 to 40 seconds, so now being there for a full 2 minutes, there's something potentially wrong with that race car driven by Thirds. Now closing in here on just about to be 2 minutes to go here at Daytona. Still watching the battle here between Hybrid and Mint. Hybrid managing to get around that Ford. That's going to put it up to the 4th position. Mint just behind. Ash closing in on this battle as well. All nose to tail here. There's also... Uh-oh. We have trouble. Miette's off the raceway. Miette's crashed out. That is the end of the line for Miette with 2 minutes left in the race. Thorium is your new race leader, and there is no one to contest the race lead anymore. Thorium is your new race leader, the only car on the lead lap. As long as Thorium doesn't figure out a way to crash out in the next minute and a half, Thorium will take home the win here at Daytona. What a catastrophic finish for Miette. It looked like she had it in the bag after that little slip-up Thorium had about 10 minutes ago, but no. Just got a little overzealous, overcooked the corner, and that's a totaled race car. 1 minute left here at Daytona. I'd imagine that Thorium is going to be taking the white flag coming across the start-finish line this time by. I might be mistaken on that, because up here in the broadcast booth, we actually don't get told when the white flag is. We just kind of have to guess here. And we are back after our audio drivers have wonderfully crashed here with 1 lap left to go. But Thorium looks like they are going to be taking home the race win here in class in the LMP2 category. I don't think we're going to be going for another lap. I'm pretty sure it should be the white flag this time by. And sure enough, heading through NASCAR 3 and 4, entirely uncontested, Thorium comes to the checkered flag. In their first ever Ottercar start, Thorium takes home the win here in the MusteLe Mans 2.4. And what a win it has been. Back in the GT3 category, Pav working on completing his final lap around the speedway. And actually, that's a lie. Pav's already crossed the checkered flag. So Pav has already won the race in GTE as well. Again, with a questionable gap to the win, but you know, it works out. But that is how things are going to shake off here this evening. Pav, the race winner in the GTE category. Thorium, despite all amounts of adversity in chaos in these final couple laps, Thorium manages to take home the race win in LMP2 and be the overall winner in the first ever Ottercar special event. Hey there everyone, Icey here. Thank you all for tuning in to our first ever Ottercar special event here for the MusteLe Mans Daytona 2.4. The race definitely had a lot of hiccups on the technical side that I'm sure that will be ironed out in the future, but of course, it's an Ottercar race, it's always bound to have a couple of them. But despite the hiccups, it was still a ton of fun to put on. It was my first time ever really broadcasting a race of this scale, and it was a really interesting experience. It was really fun to do, and it's definitely not going to be the last. Of course, starting on October 12th, so that's going to be a little bit over a week from when this video is getting posted, Season 3 of the Ottercar Clamshell Championship will be starting off in NR 2003, so that should be a lot of fun. But of course, in the weeks off in between that and just general and future projects, definitely we'll be doing more special events like these, both in iRacing and in NR 2003. I've got lots of ideas for lots of serious and lots of silly different events that I might be hosting here in the future. For now, though, thank you all for tuning in, and for those of you who have been wondering where I've been here on the main channel, obviously I haven't posted here in a pretty decently long time here at this rate, and hopefully I'll get back to it here soon. But in the meantime, I stream weekly, sometimes even more than weekly, on my second channel, which is Icey2 on YouTube. Links down in the description. I stream mostly iRacing. I do a lot of iRacing broadcasts. Of course, every week I do the ASRC Oval Series on Monday nights for those of you interested in seeing me broadcast races with real human beings behind the control of the cars. Otherwise, I do Ottercar starting up here soon on October 12th. It's going to be every other Saturday on the second channel, so definitely be sure to take a look down there, because even if I haven't posted here on the main channel in a while, I'm posting on the second channel multiple times a week pretty much at this rate. For now though, thank you all for tuning in, and I will see y'all next time.